We don't need to have all the answers. We just need to love now. We just need to love now. We just need to love now.
There were a couple of women of color who came to SUUSI for a long time, and then there were conversations that were had that just blew up, that started this whole conversation about race issues and trans issues and those types of things. And there's not just those women of color. There are people who are trans who don't feel welcome at SUUSI, that don't feel safe at SUUSI. That is not okay. To not feel safe at a church camp, that is not okay.
We've heard a lot on the board. We heard a lot from historically marginalized communities speaking to us of the things that occur at SUUSI. Looking that painful experience in the face was very difficult for us.
When we make assumptions about who SUUSI is and who SUUSI isn't, and part of those assumptions leave out people of color, BIPOC folks, we are doing a disservice because we're giving Black, Indigenous, and people of color the message that they are not who SUUSI is. And when SUUSI starts to do things that address these things, there's always reaction to it. And that reaction sends a message too. When I was the director in 2016, my then assistant, Danielle Glad, proposed that we have a lounge that was specifically a lounge that only people of color were allowed in. And it was an oasis that people of color could use whenever they felt like they needed to just be with other people of color. And Danielle rightly suggested that that lounge be somewhere visible, so that A, the people of color who needed it could find it really easily, and B, everyone knew why SUUSI was providing this space for our BIPOC beloved. And we got pushback about that. We were taking up valuable space. And the clear implication was that the reason we were taking up that valuable space was not a valuable reason. That message was heard. And it hurt. It hurt the people who needed that space. It hurt the people who set up that space because people beloved to us needed that space. It hurt. I hope that everyone hearing that story can go, oh, that's not the SUUSI that I want, right? I hope that everyone can say, oh, SUUSI should do better than that, right? Because SUUSI can do better than that when we realize that it should.
Things like we have kids who are biracial kids, and little things like touching their hair. That's really disrespectful. And the kids don't necessarily know it's disrespectful, but those of us of color who are like, no, that's not okay. And you call them on that and they're like, well, we're just touching their hair because it's so pretty. That's not okay. That's a microaggression. Or touching their skin. That's not cool. Or saying crap like, you speak such good English. What is that? What is that? I've heard and seen all of those things. That is not okay.
One of the young folks who's trans, I think non-binary would be a better way to describe that person, but being told that they didn't belong in the bathroom that they were walking into was so painful to hear. And I don't think the person who said it had any clue that what they were saying was hurtful. They thought they probably were being helpful. Oh, did you notice this sign on the door is not the sign on the door that you think it is? Believing they're being generous in spirit, and at the same time, really causing tremendous amount of pain. That's just to be told that you don't know where to go to the bathroom is at a very base level, very harmful and hurtful.
I remember the first year that we had our pronouns printed on our name tags, and I chose to leave it blank. I decided that there were enough people at SUUSI who thought they knew who I was, who would wonder why the pronoun on my name tag was they, that I did not want to spend the entire week at SUUSI doing the work of explaining to everyone there why I was using a different pronoun than they thought I used. I didn't want that to be my SUUSI. I hope that my SUUSI beloved can imagine what it would be like for someone to have to choose, okay, do I hide this part of who I am in order to get what I need out of my spiritual home, SUUSI, or do I come to SUUSI with integrity about who I am and then spend the entire week doing other people's emotional labor for me? That is not a choice that our SUUSI people should have to encounter.
Anytime you're debating somebody's identity, I think we need to re-evaluate the direction of the conversation. So if you find yourself having a spirited conversation with somebody and you're learning something new and you're feeling inquisitive, I would like people to stop and think, how much privilege am I exercising in demanding that this person teach me right now? Because there are plentiful resources out there for us to do our own homework, to learn about the people that we want to love.
Someone in a wheelchair needs to get into a building and like people just open a door and close it on them. And like it's not thought about that guest, or not even a wheelchair, someone who is older. It's a no-brainer to hold the door open for someone who has a walker, who has a cane. But people don't even think about that when they're going to the dining hall. It's just, let's go and get food. It's all about what I'm doing right now.
There still is some sexism at SUUSI. I see it in the way that young women are approached, comments about the way they look. And we have a wonderful culture about hugs, but we need to do a better job of asking permission. I see young women in particular submitting to a hug that, because that's what we do. And the look on their faces is not one of comfort.
I hope people embrace discomfort in gathering again, discomfort in having challenging conversations about race, gender identity, ableism, ageism. We're never going to know everything. So come into spaces with curiosity and courage rather than animosity and your defenses up. Keep your heart open, your mind open, and your ears open to what people are trying to tell you.
As a white person, being able to see what's going on with the racism, because I'm white. I was not conditioned to see that stuff. I have to make an effort to do it. And I have to listen when I'm told it's happening. And I think it's the same sort of reflects on men. They're not trained to see sexism. They're conditioned to not see it. They're what water? What water? I don't see any water. I'm a fish. I'm swimming in water and I don't see it, you know? And so I think there's progress for all of us. And what that does when we can do that is it opens up our vision of what life is really about. Our experiences expand and we grow. Whoa, I think that's what we're here for, if I have to come up with some kind of purpose.
I would like to see more of the uncomfortable. Those people are getting uncomfortable, and I like to see more of that. Like they're stretching themselves in ways that I know that are hard for them. I would like to see more talk about race, talk about racism. I like to talk about ableism. I like talking about trans issues. And I would like to talk about more of those kinds of things that are most definitely happening at SUUSI, that are big issues at SUUSI. But like those people are like, you know what, these are important values because SUUSI is supposed to be a welcoming community. So let's be uncomfortable and make ourselves that. Those are the ones that I'm like, yes, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm losing sleep at night, because those people want to be at SUUSI. They want to be a welcoming community. They want to be a home for people. They want to be home for me because SUUSI's my only home, you know? Like SUUSI's been my home for 20 years. That's all I've got. No family, no nothing. SUUSI's my home. Like I want my home to be able to be home to other people who look like me, who are Black, who are people of color, who are queer, who are the other, not to have to be the other at SUUSI.
The thing I hope people do at SUUSI is call people back into that love on a regular basis, to figure out the skills that you need to be able to say to someone lovingly and gently, here's what I just witnessed. And I don't think that's the behavior that you meant, or that I don't think that that behavior is the best of what SUUSI has to offer. Can we talk about that? We need to be able to say that to one another. We need to not be afraid. And when someone says that to us, right? Because if I were there, someone would say that to me at some point in the week. I just want to be really clear. When someone says that to us, we need to not get defensive about it. We need to use that as an opportunity to expand our heart.
You may inadvertently step into it. And then when you do it, how are you going to react? You know, are you going to say, I'm sorry? Are you going to realize when in that moment that you've crossed a boundary of trust and say, you know what? I'm sorry I did that. Be prepared to say, I'm sorry.
I really hope this year that when I'm confronted with something that I'm doing that is hurtful, that I will be open to hearing that, and that others will be open to hearing that. We get so defensive. I get so defensive. It's just a part of, I think, being human. So I hope this year that we can do not only a good job of helping each other to see that, but also being able to receive that information when it comes to us.
When someone says to me, Michael, the behavior I just witnessed in you is not the best behavior I've seen from you, or it is not in keeping with the love that we want in this community, my natural inclination is to go, what do you mean? I'm great. That's my natural inclination. And I instead constantly have to teach myself to go, let me learn from this. Let me figure out how to make amends for my behavior. Let me figure out what I need to change. And let me be transformed, because somebody is expressing their love for me by telling me that, right? So we need to express our love for others by telling them that. We need to understand that others are going to be expressing their love for us in that way as well. And it's love. It's love. Because if I didn't love you, I wouldn't want you to transform. And if you didn't love me, you wouldn't want me to transform.
I think perhaps the most hurtful stories that I heard were when someone was confronted and then they were not responsive. And there were many times when even and in that moment, the conversation was happening in real time. This was hurtful to me. Well, I didn't mean it to be. It's that whole impact and intention conversation. It's so common. The individual stories that were told were one piece of it, but the inability to hear those stories and respond with, I'm sorry, I will work on that behavior and try very hard to not have that kind of thing happen again, rather than saying, I didn't mean it, it wasn't what I meant. Again, it's that we need to be receptive. No matter what the individual story is, we need to be receptive. No matter what the group impression is, we need to be receptive to what people are saying and how they're feeling and the impact of our words, because we don't always know. And it's good to listen.
I hope that we embrace the intersections of joy, keeping in mind that as a community, we're basically triaging brokenness, pain, and joy. And those are conflicting ideas. And so when we're looking at what we want SUUSI to be, what we think it should be, what it used to be, just remember that we're changing. We're changing in a really intentional way. And we need people to embrace that and be involved in it. If there's something that SUUSI is doing or affirming that you don't agree with, talk to us about it, because we want to have conversations with you. I want to know what you think, and so do other members of leadership. We get better by having these conversations. None of us have all the answers. It's just about having the right questions.
I love SUUSI. SUUSI is my spiritual home. SUUSI has transformed my life. SUUSI was integral in my call to the ministry. I see the potential that SUUSI has to be transformative for others and for our world. And I want SUUSI to grow into that potential.
Into the arms of love, into the arms of love, into love's arms.